Hello, thank you for joining us. Welcome to our first ever EZLynx live event. I'm Brenna Johnson.
And I'm Burchett, and we're both product managers here at EZLynx.
So since this is our first ever event, we're going to start off by telling you who we are, what we do, and why we think that EZLynx Live is important. So first of all, as Brett mentioned, we're product managers. So what that means is that we set the vision, strategy, and product direction for each of our products or product lines. So this is very similar to what a lot of you do in your agencies. You set your vision of where you want to be in 3 years, 5 years, how you want to be able to get there. You determine whether you want to focus more on commercial lines, or personal lines, or maybe focus in a niche market. So we do the same things, but we're working with our business analysts and our architects to be able to construct the product that you use every day to help improve your agencies. When it comes down to it, at the core, we're really problem solvers. We want to understand the problems that you all face every single day and be able to bring technology to try to find better solutions to solve it for you.
Yeah, and one of those problems that we saw was really having a way to communicate with you guys for you to help understand why we do the things that we do, what we're doing, how we're doing them, what's the best practices around those things. We pretty consistently heard from you all that was a struggle, and that was something that we needed to communicate better with you. And that's one of the reasons why we're trying out EZLynx Live here today with you guys to spend time to help understand what we're doing. One of the things that we build on is our 4 pillars. It's serviceability, profitability, productivity, and scalability. And we're really hoping that this live event and others that follow, whether it's led by us or other product managers or the training team or whoever else, is really to help explain how we build on those 4 pillars and how we help you with the best practices and what to do and how other agents are finding success using EZLynx. So with that said, the first session that we decided to do was Agency Workspace. To make sure we're all in the same field today, Agency Workspace is those 3 icons in the top right-hand corner. Starting with the right one with the blue, it's the notification, so everything that's coming into your feed, whether it's a task being completed, a text message, things like that. One over to the left is your task list. So that's your work bucket, right? Everything you need to do throughout the day, everything that's assigned to you or one of the departments. And then the pencil icon is the create activity icon. So that's adding a note, creating a task, labels, all of that good stuff. And the reason why we want to start with Workspace is because it's an incredibly powerful and complex tool that looks simple, but it can do a whole lot of things, and we want to make sure that you're using it right because we've left a lot of it open for you to use it how you like, and we want to explain some of the best practices around that.
So we wanted to start off really quickly about how we came to build Workspace the way that we did. So the EZLynx management system started, of course, on the foundation set by Rating in 2012. And so when it first came out, the Workspace as it is now didn't exist that way. There were ways to document notes and tasks, but they were kind of one and done. And what we realized is that just wasn't enough. Being able to just document the activity that was happening in an agency left something to be desired. So one of the things that we started realizing as people were using it is that agents were losing the context of what they were doing. So what they were having to do is when a customer called and they were trying to figure out where they were and what was going on with this customer, they were having to scroll through an entire list of different activities to try to figure out what had happened, who had talked to them, and what they might be calling about. So one of the main things that we realized is that we needed a better way to facilitate omni-channel communication and really a tool that helped agencies provide better customer service.
So the way we figured out how to do that a little bit differently than the other systems had done it is creating our discussion groupings. It really is just a logical grouping. It's process-based. That's the key number 1 for you. So the way we intended for discussions to be used was to do it by process. So whether it's a renewal or new business, things like that, so that everybody can collaborate and stay on the same page as they're working through things. We understand, Brenna talked about how historically things were kind of timeline view, that life doesn't go in a single path and it's not super simple to follow. Things jump around, they come in at different times of the day, you're moving around, so we really wanted to organize it better for you so you didn't have to figure out things that were from last week that were about a different process than something that happened today, and it was just all jumbled around. And that's the reason we came up with discussion groupings. So I know you have some examples to provide, right?
Yeah, well, and I was also going to say that one of the things that inspired this was looking at other software that was really popular at the time that include different types of social media and the way that they were grouping things to help facilitate conversations around specific events. So we wanted to take those same concepts and apply them. So, as Brett mentioned, some examples of discussion groupings, same idea. So you could have a conversation that's happening between your agency and a potential customer about your new business and what's going on as they move through the journey of purchasing software. That could be one conversation you're having. Meanwhile, you could be having a different conversation at the same time. Potentially you have a totally different team that cross-sells the life and health maybe. And so one of the things is that you want your agency to be aware that both of those are happening for those customers, but you need to quickly find the context that they're asking questions about and talking about. So we also see this working really well for things like renewal, changes, endorsements.
Claims.
All of the different things that you have procedures set for, these are the type of things that can be grouped and used to really streamline and make it quick and easy for anyone in your agency to get to that customer and quickly know exactly what's happening.
Right. So another thing that we help with discussions is something called followers. It's one of those things that a lot of people don't notice. It's a little people icon. Just like in social media, Brenna mentioned earlier, if you post on something, you're going to get notifications about others responding or reacting to that. It's very similar inside of EZLynx. If you are working on a discussion, you're automatically added as a follower. So you see all of the other notes or actions taken by, whether it's emails saved from the ALEC Plugin or whether it's a note or a task completed, you'll see all of those actions in your notifications so you can stay up to date. Some other examples that we've seen with followers being used successfully is, say you have a brand new hire as a CSR and you have your CSR manager wants to keep track of what they're doing, so they're asked to be a part of the follower on every single discussion that CSR is working on, so they can make sure they're following best practices and they can really keep an eye as they're coming up to speed and training to make sure you're providing the best service possible.
It's a really great example. So when you guys signed up for this session, we asked you to submit any questions that you had on Workspace. So the overall goal of EZLynx Live is to eventually move towards a much more interactive question and answer process. We weren't quite able to facilitate that on this first one, so we have taken your questions and we've looked at them and we're working them in as we go throughout talking about Workspace. So the first one that we have is, what if I forget to attach a note to a specific discussion?
It's a great question, and it's something that we pretty recently came out with. We understood and heard your pain points that, hey, this CSR forgot to attach it, or I was doing an email and I forgot to put it in a specific discussion, and then I lose the value of that context and that process-based grouping. So what we did was we added a move action in the activities page that you're seeing on the screen right now, where you can actually select a specific note, whether it's on its own or within a discussion, or you can select a text message perhaps, because it's about a different claim or something along those lines, and move it into the correct discussion. So whether you're starting fresh today and just now starting to use discussions that are process-based and really trying to keep them organized, you can use this to get historical things in order and looking correct, or for any corrections that you need to make in the future. So that's our first question we got. We want to talk about another one really quick before we move on. We had a question, what if a CSR leaves suddenly and I have all these tasks assigned to them? How do I reassign that work to somebody else?
So that's a great question. That happens all the time, whether it's actually someone leaving or just going on vacation for a little while. You still have to keep your agency running. So one of the tools that we have is called bulk actions. So if you go down to the settings for bulk reassignment, and just so you know, this is a fairly new tool that we've come out with, and so you all might not yet have it on your account. So if you call support, they'll be able to get you set up with that. But you can go into the bulk reassignment for open tasks and you select the CSR. So we'll select myself there. So you select the CSR and every open task that's assigned to that person shows up, and you're able to choose which of those or all of those you want to move to a new assignee. Yeah. So what this does is it helps make sure that no matter who's in your agency working on any given day, that your agency's covered and it's going to run well.
Yeah, so that's really cool, and like Brenna said, if you don't see that feature for whatever reason, please just reach out to support and they'll get it enabled for you, and just let them know that you like the bulk reassignment features. We're happy to give it to you. One thing that one of our VPs here consistently refers to Workspace as is keeping agents out of the hard oak chair of deposition. And one of the ways that we're solving that problem is by making it accessible on every page and really simple for you to work with and tied into other areas of EZLynx and other products. So the first product that we want to talk about is the ALEC Plugin. It's an incredibly powerful feature. It works on your Outlook desktop, whether you're at home or at your office. It connects with the two of those so it doesn't overlap each other. And it has some really, really neat features with it. So it's basically a full-on extension of your agency EZLynx Workspace inside of Outlook. It searches the email directly, so it shows you all of the applicant information on the right-hand side of the window. You can save the activity, and when you save that activity, you have all the main features of the workspace where you can save not only the email as the original MSG, so you have that full permanent record of the email and the discussion around it. You can save all of the attachments. You can create notes, you can create tasks, you can add labels, associate to specific policies, and do all of these things with one simple click without ever leaving your email. You can also reopen tasks or close existing tasks. So a lot of times tasks are closed through email, right? So an email comes in, it's finishing something that you were working on. So you can actually find that task inside of the Outlook plugin while you're saving the email and hit we're done with it and close it and you're good to go.
Yeah, that's one of the really good productivity tools that we have. Another one is actually EZLynx Mobile. Yeah. So EZLynx Mobile is the mobile version of EZLynx, and essentially what it does is it allows you to be out anywhere and still access the full functionality of the workspace, and text messages are also in there too. So this is really great. So as an independent agent, many of you I know are popular and very active within your communities. And so you're out at a community event, or you're at a kid's soccer game, or maybe just at the grocery store, and you run into a prospective customer or one of your already customers, and then they see you and that jogs something in their mind to be able to ask a question. You don't want to have to try to remember it or send yourself a note. What you can do is you can easily pull up EZLynx Mobile and be able to send that item as a task to whoever in your agency needs to follow up right there. And so it really allows you to be productive, get it documented, get it to the right person without taking too much time out of your day or being a big disruption.
Yeah, it really solidifies the value of the independent agent because you're supposed to be the trusted advisor that's there whenever they need them, and it's just one more example of helping with that.
So one of the other things, so as we've been talking a little bit about protecting agencies, one of the things that we see and we think about a lot that really helps that is being able to perform activities, tasks, processes in these very repeatable and sustainable ways, so that whatever you're doing, every single time you do an endorsement, you follow these steps and you make sure that your T's are crossed and your I's are dotted to help with your customers. So one of the things that we've added recently to help you do that more simply is that we have added checklist templates. So essentially what that is an admin user goes in and defines these checklists for different processes in your agency. So as you can see, we have up on the screen some different examples. So for instance, if you have an account renewal process, an account review process that you go through every single time, you can pull that up, simply add it, and that means that everyone in your agency is going to go through and have to step through and acknowledge each of those steps on that template. So we talked about our 4 pillars. So this ties into our pillar of scalability. So what we really want to do is be able to help you grow and you sustain growth, whether that's employee growth, premium growth. And this is just one of the tools and ways that we see as really helping you be able to do that.
Exactly. And like we talked about with Workspace, we've purposely left it open, but it is intended to be used as process-based. So Brenna used the renewal process, but you have the onboarding, you have claims, right? Cancellations especially. We know that you have to follow steps consistently or else somebody can come after you if you don't follow every step consistently with cancellations and things like that.
So one of the other really good things that we forgot to mention is that those templates can also be used with Automation Center. That way, when you're kind of taking a little bit of the human element out of remembering to do that. So the event triggers after you set it up, and it automatically creates that checklist for someone to be able to follow.
Yeah, it's really neat. And if you have questions about that, email us and get back to us, and we'd love to fill you more on Automation Center and what it can do. So the other thing that we want to talk about is groups and how we allow you to use kind of department level task tracking. One of the best examples we've seen recently with customers using this effectively is if they have a book of high net worth personal lines clients, they want to get back to those people within 2 hours or so. And so you can actually create a high net worth department, assign a couple of your best CSRs or the CSRs that focus on that, and assign the task to that group or department so that anybody can reach into that and pull that task out and work on it. So it's really nice to be able to have these different groupings of employees that can pull from this task list if their own personal task list needs to be doesn't need to be worked on at that point in time, or you need additional help on it. So multiple people can work through a checklist, things like that, right?
One of the really nice benefits of that as well is there's a workload distribution report that goes along with it for managers. That way you can see which of your employees are picking up the different tasks, how many are they doing in this group, how is it distributed. That way you can identify kind of your superstars that are doing everything, and then see if you have any coaching moments that you need to work through with some of the other people.
Yeah, it's really powerful. On top of that, we have labels. So labels is something that we've noticed is pretty underutilized by a lot of agents, and we need to talk about why it's important to track them. So I'll give you some good examples of how people are using them successfully, and then let's talk a little bit more about that. So there's one label that we've seen that's used a lot is phone call, outbound phone call made, where they want to track that all of their producers are making at least 8 phone calls a day, and they use that label as a reporting function to make sure that their producers are reaching at least 8, and then also benefiting those agents that produce more than 8 calls a day or 8 cold calls a day. It's used for things like endorsements, where they have a label that's like endorsements dash vehicle change, so that you can track and report on all the activities and notes around that specific label, whether it's in reporting or helping you filter and search through the notes and discussions to find what's appropriate. It's a really powerful tool, and just like everything with Workspace, it's primarily meant to be process-based for you to report and find things in context and easy to use, but you can use it however you'd like.
So we give you some system kind of default labels that we found valuable, but it's set up with the flexibility that you can go in and you can create the labels for whatever is important to your agency and for tracking, and then it just gives you another level of flexibility that you can use.
So do you want to talk a little about policy associations?
Yeah, so one of the other things as we talk in this whole section kind of about making sure that everything is organized and sustainable and able to be repeated. So one of the other things that we have that's also somewhat underutilized is our policy association. So any of the notes can be associated to policies. If that policy and the association is already in a discussion grouping, so you are doing an endorsement, it has to do with that policy, we automatically default that for you just to make it easier and repeatable. That way someone doesn't have to remember to add that grouping. But one of the good benefits of this is that when you're inside the policy view, you can quickly scan and see all the notes that are associated with it. And if that policy, for whatever reason, has to be moved, or you realize you have duplicate accounts and are trying to do some cleanup, everything associated to that policy, including these notes, will flow with it. So it goes anywhere that that policy goes.
Okay, so the next thing we want to talk about is notifications. We've talked a lot about writing things down and recording it, but there's no value to that if you don't follow up with it. So the one area that I talked about briefly earlier was that bell icon on the top right. That's all of your notifications, right? Think of that like the feed of activity that's important to you and your daily work. It is meant to be a short-term view of everything going on. It's not meant to be your work list. It's not meant to be things that you look at from last week, right? It's meant to be that day and pretty current. The notifications are incredibly powerful. So please take advantage of them. Text messages coming in from customers all show up there. You can read it. You can reply directly to those text messages, notes that are being completed or tasks that are being completed by employees that you've assigned them out to. So you can quickly see, hey, this task actually did get taken care of. I don't need to worry about it any longer, things like that. And on top of that, we have reminders that can also be set up for tasks. And if you're like me and Brenna, who use reminders a lot, and Brenna assigns about 15 reminders per task for me because I forget and then don't do anything about it. Welcome to ADD world. It really helps me out, right? So I can do some cool things with this. I can set as many as I want, like I said, 15 for me. You can do different types, so they can come in through email, text message, or in-app notification. And you can also have it go to the assignee, so you really want to encourage your CSR to follow up, or producer, because you're waiting on some information from them. All the followers on the discussion, again, the followers come in more and more handy there. Or I just want it to go to myself, and you can do one or all of those options. One thing that I want to point out that's really neat that a lot of agents tend to just hit block when it pops up on their browser for the first time is the in-app notifications. This is a cool tool. It basically pops up a little window on the bottom right hand of your screen. If you've never seen it, call our support to get it re-enabled. This works regardless if you're directly in EZLynx at that point in time. So let's say you're in EZLynx, you're working on a quote, you go to the carrier site to finish it up. If a text message comes in that's urgent, you'll see that in-app notification pop up on your screen without actually being inside of EZLynx. So you can immediately see that, take action on that, and go back to what you're working on, which is incredibly powerful. So please contact support if you have any questions about how to turn those back on, because it's really easy. The browser just says, do you want to allow pop-ups, yes or no, and you block it basically.
A lot of people do it without even reading it, just from habit. So the final thing that we really want to touch on is our Sales Center icon that's built into the Workspace. So for those of you that don't know, Sales Center is our pipeline management tool that helps you generate more leads, close more deals, and never miss out on a sales opportunity. So what does this have to do with the Workspace? So when we started going through the process of developing Sales Center, and we were doing interviews with different agencies to help truly understand what their new business process was, how were they getting leads, how were they getting and identifying potential sales opportunities, we saw a huge gap. One of the things that we saw is that often the person in the agency with the best relationship with their current customer base was not the same people that were working with new business. So what I mean by that is a lot of times when you're looking for cross-sells or other ways that you can provide value and increase your policy per customer count, and really just offer good experience by covering the additional things that that customer values, a lot of times that relationship is held by a CSR, but they're not necessarily the producer that's focusing on the new leads and business and sales. And so one of the things that we saw is that a lot of these potential sales opportunities were really kind of being overlooked and missed. So for example, CSR is on the phone with someone and they're talking about their existing policy set, and then the lady mentions, that her husband's going crazy and decided to buy a motorcycle all of a sudden, and he's going to do that. Well, often that motorcycle would get missed out. But in this case, the CSR, without leaving what she's doing, because she's already documenting that call within EZLynx, can quickly just say, would you like me to have someone call you about that? We can get you set up and covered with insurance on that motorcycle. It's as simple as that. It doesn't take additional time out of what they're already doing, and then they can get right back to the work that they were doing before the phone call started. And what this truly does is it turns every person in the organization into a lead generation tool. That way that the entire organization really starts building a culture that's focused on sales and where they can provide value. So that's just one of the other ways that we've seen this be really helpful and be able to tie into Workspace.
Yeah, it's very neat.
So we have one last question. So does your Outlook plugin work for Office 365 online?
Another great question. The immediate answer is no, but I do want to share with you guys some pretty good news. We are actively working on an Office 365 plugin. So what does that mean? It means that this plugin will work just like the current plugin, if not better, but also on all the different devices you can imagine and all operating systems as well. So imagine this working not just on your desktop, which it currently does, but it working on your mobile phone if you have the Outlook app, working on your browser. So any computer you're on, any device you're on, if you're just inside of Outlook, the plugin will work. If you're on a Mac, it will work. For those Mac users, we know some of you guys really love Macs and want to go, really want the Outlook plugin, so this will help you as well with that. And then for those of you guys that are stout Gmail followers, we're also looking into that. However, no promises on that. But we are really focused on getting you guys better connected, better opportunities to work within EZLynx from wherever you're at. And this is just one more example. So it's exciting to share that with you guys today. And what's neat about that is the shameless plug that we want to do next is EZLynx coming up here in October on the 20th through the 23rd near our headquarters in Fort Worth, Texas. It's going to be all country themed and cowboy themed, and it's just a blast. I know I just shared with you the Outlook plugin work that we're working on. Imagine that on steroids here at EZLynx, where it's all the agents talking together, sharing best practices, communicating, making friends. We sit down and have breakfast at different tables and meet agents as a product management team throughout the entire event, or we're at lunch with you, or we're teaching sessions with you. And it's just a really, really fun event and opportunity to learn tons of things.
It's really a great way for you to be able to have a voice in a way that we just, as much as we try to be connected and get feedback, it's just completely different when you're having a face-to-face conversation and you're truly getting to sit down and sit face-to-face with one of the product managers or people on any of our other teams. We're so excited to get to meet you.
Yeah, and like that's part of the purpose of this event, right? It's not as total interactive as Brenna said as we'd like currently, but we do want to work on that in the future, and that's one of the reasons we want some feedback, and we appreciate you joining today. But one of the cool things about EZLynx is that we've booked officially the world's largest honky tonk. So how awesome is that for those of you guys?
Pretty excited. So thank you all so much for tuning in to our first ever EZLynx Live. We are thankful that you came and really excited to hopefully continue these sessions in the future. We're going to be sending out a quick survey at the end of this to be able to get your feedback, find out what you liked, what you didn't like, any suggestions you have for making these more beneficial in the future. We really appreciate your time. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Have a great rest of your day.